Welcome to the Be the Best podcast, first and of many. We have one of my good friends here. We're going to be talking about real growth, real goals, financial, how to really sustain your family, right? Because that's the reason why we do it. We look at our families. We want to be leaders of our households. We want to be astute in everything that we're doing. And we want to be able to carry that from generation to generation, right? So that's the main reason why we're here today. So we invited an awesome guest today, Perry Jeffries. Applause, applause, applause. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to be jumping into not just being able to talk about money, but being able to be the master of your money, right? Being able to make money work for you, and making all kinds of different investments and different choices. And I think one of the critical lines that you talk about is being the bank. Right. So we're going to talk about the boot camp and all kinds of stuff in between. You ready for it?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Right, let's get started. So before we get into the deep stuff, what's the first thing you think about when you hear the word wealth?
That's a great jumping off point. The first thing I think about when I hear the word wealth, well, the first emotion I have is cringe.
Okay.
I literally cringe.
I hear overused all the time.
Yeah, and I believe misused and misunderstood. Reason being, after 20 plus years of being in this wealth management space, I guess you would call it, what I'm realizing is that most people do not understand what wealth is. Actually, at the location we're at right now, it was about a week ago that I gave a presentation out in that hallway, and we were talking about creating wealth with real estate. So it was a realtor who had her people here, and some first-time home buyers, some real estate investors. And I asked them a question that I ask every room before I start speaking. Who in here wants to be wealthy? Everybody's hands go up, like clockwork. And also like clockwork, I asked the next question. Who wants to give me their definition of wealth? And you can hear a pin drop. So immediately everybody wants a thing that they can't define.
Sure. And
if you can't define it, then you can't really achieve it because you can't measure if you're getting close to it or not. So it's the same way with the phrase, will generational wealth. You see it all the time. I'm creating generational wealth. I'm doing this. And it's like, well, if you're creating generational wealth, in order to create generational wealth, you have to pass something down to the next generation. Well, you can't pass down anything that you can't define. You can't pass down anything that you can't measure. Yeah. So when I hear the word wealth, I immediately cringe because it's misused and misunderstood. So what we landed on, what really works for my family, which is now working for our clients and working for our Millionaire Mastermind community, is defining wealth this way. And I'll share it with you. Wealth is a system, period, point blank. Wealth is not a destination. Wealth is, not how much money you have in your bank account. Wealth is a system. And a system, one of my favorite quotes is, systems allow ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results, right?
Love it.
So a system, and if we liken system to like a recipe, is something that can be passed down, right? So us as black and brown folks have been passing down recipes for grains and cornbread and chitlins and all of that for years, but there's no wealth recipe. So if we break it down that way, wealth is a recipe, i.e. a system. And a system yields predictable results. Well, what are those predictable results, right? This is what I landed on, which really works for me and my community, is this. Wealth, if it is a system, should create three things. One, it should create time freedom. Okay? So if you have wealth as a system, that means you control your day. You show up when you want to show up. You don't have to ask permission to take your kids to the doctors. You don't have to, hey, we can only go on vacation for 10 days. We only get 2 weeks out the year. You don't have to ask, hey, if I'm going to take the next 30, 60 days off. You are in 100% control of your time if you truly have wealth. The next thing that wealth provides is safety. One of my team members who we recently brought on board, we were having this conversation. And he's like, you know what, Perry? I hear you talk about wealth, and I think wealth is security. Right? If you talk to your spouse, you talk to your partner, you talk to your children, and just ask them a really simple question. Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure in our financial position today? If the answer is no, then you have not created any wealth. Because if you have wealth, the answer will be a resounding yes, I feel absolutely secure and safe. The other thing that wealth is going to create from a systematic standpoint, is it is going to create abundance. But abundance is just not, for those who grew up in the church, we're not talking about milk and honey right now. We're not talking about, rolls of silver and gold. Abundance is just simply this, family. It is, do you have enough to cover all of your needs and have extra to help somebody else out?
Mm-hmm.
So, if we look at wealth from that standpoint, if I need $5,000 a month and I have $5,000 a month coming in passive income, I have enough to cover everything I need. And if I have $501, that means I have $1 I can give to somebody else. That means I'm abundant. Right. So when I say misuse, I think people think wealth is like this far-fetched idea of, I hit the lottery, I have millions of dollars and things of that nature. When actually wealth is very boring. Wealth is just simply, do you have a clearly defined system that provides security, time freedom, and abundance, and is measured by a very simple mathematical equation, fam. Mm. Hey, do you know your monthly nut? How much do you need to cover your monthly expenses? Most people don't know that, and it's really scary. But if you know that your numbers say 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, everybody is different. But if you know your number, and let's say your number is 5,000 a month, at the point in time that you have enough passive income coming in from different sources to cover your monthly expenses, you are now what we call financially free. Mm-hmm. Because now you have security, you have time freedom, and you have abundance. So, I know you asked that question, but I have to kind of go through my whole definition of wealth.
No, it's perfect. I'm going to touch on the first word that you said, which was freedom. But what I heard you really say is control. Mm-hmm. Right? And so freedom is, I think it's something that might be misused as well, right? Mm-hmm. If you're at home, take notes. Freedom, right? We had, recipe, passing it down, being able to have systems, right? But that control and being able to be able to do whenever you want to, mm-hmm. that is the real freedom, which is sometimes we put those things opposite of each other. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Man, that's awesome. That's powerful. If you're watching this, grab a pencil and paper, rewind this, go back and hit that. We're going to clip it down anyway, and we're going to loop it. But make sure you write these concepts down or capture it somewhere. We're going to get right into the next subject. You ready?
Let's roll, baby.
All right, so cool. So we had a little icebreaker. Now that we did that, tell folks a little bit about yourself. I call you PJ, Perry Jeffries. Know you for a while. My wife's known you for a while. Mm-hmm. But tell me something that's memorable, something you want people to know about you.
Wow, that's a really good question. What do I want people to remember about me? I asked my daughter this question, and I have twin girls, as you know, but the viewers may not know, twin 16-year-old daughters. And we were riding in a car one day, and I asked Micah, I said, hey, if I pass away today, what would you get in front of the room and tell them about your dad?
That's it.
Right? And she had to think about that, like, ooh, right? So what I would want somebody to take away from meeting me is he's a regular dude, right? I've been in this financial service space, man, for 20 plus years, right? Series 7 stockbroker, got that in 2004, fully licensed insurance agent, got that in 2003, right? And it's wild to me that when people hear those licenses, they expect something different to show up. And when I show up, I mean, right now I'm in, a hoodie, some sneaks, ashy ankles. I'm a regular dude, right? I'm not pretentious. This is just what it is. But I want people to remember, like, he is a regular dude who dedicated his life to helping people achieve the best version of themselves. So that's what my daughter says. She's like, well, you're a coach. Yep. You're a dad. Yep. You help people with their money. Yep. All of that comes down to, Perry, I guess I would want people to think Perry was a servant. Mm-hmm. He served. And I served in my areas of strength, right? I served where I knew I could help athletes not just become better players, but be able to apply those skill sets to everything in life. is way bigger than basketball, right? I don't have my daughters up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning because, man, I want them to go to the WNBA. I have them at the gym at 5:30 a.m. every morning, so they understand consistency, so they understand discipline, and they understand that that's going to carry over to anything that they do in life. If you want to be better, if you want to be extraordinary, you just have to do a little bit more than what the ordinary people are doing. The ordinary people aren't getting up at 4 o'clock. So because you got up an hour early, you are now functioning in an extraordinary capacity. And I feel the same way with finances, right? I figured some things out. I figured out that what we've been taught over the years and the system we've been indoctrinated into doesn't work. And when I figured that out, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, my mantra, think like the bank, when I figured out that we're in this system, let's call it the matrix, and it's time for us to take this red pill if we want to break out of the matrix and really see what's going on, right? I believe that's what the gift that God gave me. So if someone is to say, man, what do I want folks to remember from Perry? He served, and he coached, and he tried to help people become the best version of themselves.
That's dope. Love it. Love it. All right, let's get into it then. So how did you get into, I'm just going to call it financial advisement. I know
Sure.
you got some history there,
Mm-hmm.
coaching, business coaching. What made you passionate about helping others? We kind of started to lean into it, but where's your passion and what do you expect to kind of get out of it or other people to get out of it?
Yeah. So I didn't come from money, so let's just cut right to that chase, right? This is not I'm the third generation financial advisor.
Right.
That's not that. I'm from Akron, Ohio, where when I graduated from college and I was making $30,000 a year, I was the man, right? You know what I'm saying? With making $30,000 a year in Akron. So how I got into this space or first got exposed to it is two points that just really stick out on my head. The first one was watching my parents navigate receiving a large sum of money from a lawsuit and burning through it. Not only burning through it at lightning speed, because again, they did not have a financial advisor. They didn't have this financial literacy piece. They didn't have this recipe that's passed down to them to say, hey, when you get, multiple six figures of money landed in your lap, that this is what you do with it, right? They just did the best that they could, right? So they did some stuff with the house, they rehabbed some stuff, they bought some cars, they paid off some debt, they burned through a couple $100,000 like that. Fast forward, we started having issues with the IRS because my mom was giving bad advice. She was told while she was in this crazy lawsuit against a Fortune 500 company to file bankruptcy. Well, nobody advised that, hey, if you file bankruptcy, when you get this money from the lawsuit, the trustee gets the money. You don't get it. Now, the trustee is paying out these debtors at 150%. So if you owe somebody $10,000, they was paying them $15,000. He took some money off top, gave my mom what was left, and then down the road, the IRS was like, yeah, you owe us taxes on $400,000. And we're like, we never got $400,000. Yep, because you did not have a financial person or expert. So I wasn't in the space then, you know what I'm saying? I was still a personal trainer when this was going on. And when I started having to help navigate them from there, I was like, man, if we had just had an expert and we had, somebody to help us, but not just had, because we had access to somebody. We had a family friend who was in the space, in the financial space. And, as with most black families, if we keep it 100, man, I don't want them to know what we got.
That part.
Man, I don't want people to know what we got. So instead of going and getting expert help, they made decisions on their own with a skill set that was never developed and put them in a bad situation, right? So one, I wanted to get into the space to help people like my parents who had no idea what to do with the money, right? So that's one way I got into it. And kind of exposed, like, man, it's a huge need for it. The other one, man, was moving down here to Columbus, Ohio, man, from Akron. Like I said, when I graduated from college, man, I was at home. I was substitute teaching. I was working at the Y as a personal trainer. I was coaching 2 teams, a middle school girls team and a boys varsity basketball team. And when I moved to Columbus, with my personal training, my strength conditioning certification, I start, having these clients who were paying me $30,000 a year to train them. That's what I was making as a year as a school teacher. So I'm like, what in the world is going on down here? Like, what are y'all doing? So, me, I'm asked questions. How are you making your money? What are you doing? Oh, you're in real estate? I've been reading books on real estate, man. Can I take you out for a cup of coffee and learn what you're doing? I shared this story on on our YouTube channels how a $1.50 cup of coffee turned into a $4 million real estate portfolio because I am humble enough to go ask for help. If I don't know how to do it, I'm going to find somebody who has proven they know how to do it, and I'm going to spend time with them, invest whatever I need to invest to get this information because I know I can go and duplicate it. I believe nobody is smarter than anybody else. Now, we all learn differently, but if you can learn how to tie a shoe, I can learn how to tie a shoe, right? Let's go back to that recipe piece that we talked about there, Will, right? I use this example. My wife has these recipes that's been passed down for generations from her family, right? Now, I don't bake. Now, understand, just to be clear, I said I don't bake. I cook. I'm a mean cook. Like make a full Thanksgiving dinner without any boxes or cans, right? I'm nice in the kitchen, but I don't bake, right? I have 100% confidence that if I went and picked up a recipe out of my wife's recipe book, if the recipe is clear and tells me how many eggs and how much milk and how much sugar, that I can produce a product that's going to be very close to what my wife makes because it's the recipe, right? So this whole wealth piece is just understanding the recipe. Like, do you know somebody who has the recipe to do the thing? And if they have a recipe to do the thing, then go and just do what they do, right? So when I did that, man, immediately grew from 2001 to 2009, a $4 million real estate portfolio, which again started from a $1.50 cup of coffee. So I was going through that phase of buying real estate. People at the gym start noticing some changes in, let's call it lifestyle. Like, okay, P's coming in sweats and he's leaving in a suit and he's, what are you doing? Oh, you got a new car. What are you doing, right? And it's like, well, I'm doing real estate and I'm doing this over here. And I was involved in network marketing. And man, I started just giving people financial advice. So from there, I reached out to my guy and said, hey, man, I'm trying to get into the business. And he's like, man, come on over here and interview. So I started off as a financial advisor at American Express. I got my Series 7, so that's my stockbroker's license, got my insurance license, and I was off to the races.
Nice. So you touched on something, and I've got, a handful of questions we're going to go through, but I want to slide one in. And so emotion. You talked a lot about logic, right? About if you see a recipe, you can duplicate it. That's using your logical mind, right? It has nothing to do with your sentiment. Yep. It has nothing to do with memories about, grandmama and them for Thanksgiving, right? And she threw a little kiss of seasoning on there. It has nothing to do with that. You see something and you can duplicate it. That's your engineering mind. That's your logical mind. Can you talk to me a little bit about people and their emotions with money?
Yeah. So, because this is Be the Best podcast, right? And to honor your dad, I'm not going to go off and drop the F-bomb and cuss the way I normally do in normal conversation. If anybody follows my YouTube, let's understand that it is rated.
I'll add the link and you go check him out.
It is rated E in my podcast and YouTube. But F your feelings. In my 20 years, I've never seen a good financial decision made off of emotion. Financial decisions are made off of data. Good financial decisions are made off of logic. Good financial decisions do not include emotion. And I know that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but that's why a lot of people are broke, because a lot of people are functioning out of emotion. I feel like this is what I need to do. Man, I got a good feeling about this lottery ticket. Man, I got a good feeling about this business. No, did you look at the P&L? The profit and loss statement, and see the numbers? Did you go and did you analyze the operator and if they've actually have a background of being successful? Like, everything should be data. So let's go into this whole data piece real quick. I'm riding a car with my daughters one day, and Maddie, who was looking to get a job, was like, hey, should I go and travel from where we live in New Albany to, I think it was Hilliard, to work 2 hours at this new job? And I said, well, I don't know. What do the numbers say? And both her and Micah, like in the car, like, what do the numbers say? Well, I feel like I should. I said, oh, your feelings. Gotcha. Let's not make decisions based on your feelings, right? Let's make decisions based on the numbers. How long would it take you to get out there? How much gas is going to be used to get out there? How much money are you going to make while you're there? How much taxes are they going to withhold on that money that you make? Because I want to know what you're going to net. Then you have to figure out how you're going to get back home. So all in all, for you to go work 2 hours with a half an hour there and a half an hour back, so we now got 3 hours of your day that has been wiped out, and you're going to walk away with whatever, $20, and then calculate the gas. I said, you jump on your phones that you love to get on so much and see what's the mileage there and calculate the gas. Oh, it's going to cost this amount of gas. So make decisions based on numbers and data, not how you feel. It takes longer to make it off of data because you actually have to think versus just making an emotion. But the data said that would be a horrible decision to go out there and work for 2 hours.
Yeah, so you got me curious now. So what was the math? How did that work out?
Yeah. So the math, you know what I'm saying, based upon the minimum wage or so that she's making, right? She would have made I think it would have been like a $10, $15, positive, you know what I'm saying, return, you know what I'm saying, in her time. Yeah. And then it goes to ask this question. Well, those 3 hours, and then you got to beg for a ride because you know what I'm saying, at this point in time she wasn't driving yet, and the gas included. It's like, okay, so is this worth, right, 3 hours of your time? Because that comes now down to $5 an hour.
Yeah.
I'm not showing up for $5 an hour. That's below minimum wage. Right? So you have to be able to calculate the costs. And that's how you can go about creating wealth when you start to understand your numbers. That you kind of talked about my boot camp earlier, right? That's what we teach people in the boot camp is, people join our financial freedom boot camp, and I know some of them come in thinking like, oh, Perry's going to give us a good stock idea. He's going to talk about some crypto, and we see he and his wife buying real estate. He's going to show us how to buy real estate. And the reality is no, you have to start thinking like the bank and start to, really understand your numbers and understand your math and understand how money is being made, right? Because when you start to think like the bank, you start to be the bank, you start to do the things that the banks do to make money, right? And the banks aren't making money on how they feel that day. The CEO is not waking up and be like, you know what, y'all? I feel like we should go invest in donuts today. Yeah. No, before we make a decision, I need to see the data. Why is this a good decision? What's the pros and cons? Where's the return, right? So it's a skill set. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's a skill set that either people don't realize they need or they realize they need and are just too lazy to do it.
Mm-hmm. So database solutions or database thinking, I love that example about your daughter. If she went to go get some lunch, then she's paying to go to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what it's coming down to.
Right.
That's the math.
Okay, so we have to make database decisions.
Yep.
If you could go back to and this is kind of another icebreaker, and we'll get into some deeper conversation, but if you could go back to your younger self, man, if I could go back to my younger self.
Jeez.
Whew.
Right.
If you could go back to your younger self, what would you teach him about money?
Which younger self? Hey, give me a time. Give me an age range.
Well, since I know you.
Yeah, give me an age range.
Let's just say when you got some sense to be able to receive that information.
Okay, gotcha. Because I could go back to the lessons I learned as a kid all the way from middle school to high school. Or we could talk about, when I first got into this, financial service space, first started making six figures, and this was during my club days where I was known as P. Jeff 330, the ambassador of nightlife, right? Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation, right? So do you want me to talk about that, or you want to go where you want to go?
Fork in the road. So if you were making decisions and you go, man, not regrets, but just if I were to give myself another pathway, if I could have given myself another lesson, a lesson that I didn't have to learn, but just one that would just got me a little bit further.
Got it.
Save me a little bit of heartache.
I love that. Yeah. That lesson would be, and let's go to post-college and, start making money. Nobody teaches this from a financial standpoint. Like, you hear these things. Live below your means. Have an emergency fund. Put money away into your retirement account. And one day, hopefully, prayerfully, you'll have enough money to not have to work anymore. As long as Social Security comes in and, like all of those things, right? Had I known then what I know now, Will, is that financial freedom is a mathematical equation, but the mathematical equation starts with having a clear destination. Nobody ever set me down.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, the mathematical, it starts with having a clear destination. So let me give a quick example. This is how most people go about their money. Let's me and you jump in the car, right? We're gonna jump on 270. 270 is our interstate here in Columbus, right? And let's just we're going 90 miles per hour. And at some point in time, we got to look at each other and be like, yo, fam, where are we going? And I look at you, be like, I don't know, but let's just go. So we're going 90 miles per hour, risking getting pulled over for speeding with zero destination. Remember how we started this off? I asked the question, who all here wants to be wealthy? Everybody's hand went up. Hey, somebody give me their definition of wealth. Having a definition is having a destination, right? It's kind of the same thing, kind of synonymous, right? So everybody wants to do the thing, but nobody knows where the thing is or how to get there, or even like this is the end goal. So that's so if I had that fork in the road when I started making money, I never was taught that, hey, Perry, look at your expenses today. Your monthly expenses are, let's call it $5,000 a month. To be financially independent, you just have to figure out how to get $5,000 a month coming in from other sources other than you trading your time for money. That was never taught to us. So you just go about, hey, I'm making some money, let me save some money, let me put some money into the stock market, let me put some money into this retirement plan. And nobody knows how much money they actually need. They're told to do this activity without having a clear destination. Mm-hmm. Had I had that clear, defined destination back when I was making money, I would have been work optional by 35, 40.
You just slipped in a phrase, work optional.
Yeah.
I like that. What does that mean?
Yeah. We no longer subscribe to the concept of retirement. This concept of retirement that you work, 30, 40, 50 years to be able to retire on, 50% less of what you actually were living on when you were working, to then live another, 20 years, hopefully, with bad knees, back, and other health ailments. Like, I think that is absolute trash and garbage. But what's crazy is I didn't always think that way, because when I first got into the industry, not only was I drinking that Kool-Aid, I was making the Kool-Aid, and I was good at making that Kool-Aid. But work optional, again, is a mindset shift when you start to think like the bank. So, case in point, is the bank hoarding cash and investments for a one-day payoff in 30, 40 years? No. They are receiving money that we deposit, only required to keep 10% of that actually on hand, and then using the other 90% to then go make money and create cash flow, right? So when you start to be like, oh, hold on. Why am I trying to save and hoard money, which is a scarcity mindset? Remember that old Looney Tunes? Was it Daffy Duck? You know what I'm saying? He got a little money, mine, right? That's a scarcity mindset versus having an abundance mindset and understanding that, oh, I can actually scratch this idea of retirement. I can actually become work optional at any point in time in my life that I decide that I'm going to be intentional about creating cash flow and finding ways, and finding assets and strategies to create cash flow today. I don't have to work. That concept, brother, it was probably 2.5 years ago. I had already retired my wife at 40, which was a goal I had. I said, you're going to be done working. So I retired my wife at 40. And then I was looking at my personal finances, and just a transparent moment here. So I'm looking at my personal finances, Will, and I'm like, yo, I'm anxious. I'm upset. I'm actually pissed. I'm like looking at like my nest egg. Like my nest egg wasn't nest egging. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yo, what is, and I'm like, hold on now. I did everything I was supposed to do. Went to school. I stayed out of jail, right? I went to college, got multiple degrees, came out, got a job, right? Did the things. And when I looked at this quote unquote nest egg, I'm like, this nest egg is not going to be enough in the future to replace the 6-figure income that I've created for my family. So I sat there, man, stressed. I was like, oh, this is crazy. It's like, how am I a quote unquote financial advisor and my nest egg, and granted, what I call a small nest egg, somebody else may call a huge nest egg, but it's all relative, right? And I'm looking at it like, this will not replace my $10,000 a month lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And then, man, it's like I have my glasses sitting over here. It's almost like God spoke to me. He said, dude, wake up. It's like this new lens in my eye clicked on. So it's like, pop out. And I looked at it again. I said, hold on. At that point in time, we were bringing in about $50,000 a month in monthly revenue pretty consistently. And I said, why am I tripping about a nest egg when I have enough cash flow coming in to more than cover the monthly bills and all of that? I just have to automate it. And that's when I had that light bulb went off, bro. And it was like, oh, the hell with retirement, let's become work optional. And how quickly can I systemize this cash flow to automate it, right? So that I can wake up January 1 and be like, my monthly bill is $10,000 a month, and there's more than enough money coming in to cover that, and I can choose whether or not I want to get up or if I want to sleep for the next, 365 days. That's work optional.
I love
Not
it.
that I'm going to stop working because I love serving, right? We said that earlier. I love helping other people win. Like, we actually have a goal to help 1,000 households become work optional in the next 36 months, right? So that's work I got to do. But know what's dope about it? I don't have to do it. I could chill.
That's shifting your mindset, right?
Yeah.
So, we started this whole thing. We're kind of getting into the mindset before your money, right? You told me something before. It wasn't a technique. It wasn't a tool. Because I'm like a lot of people. I know how to earn money. I know how to go and get money. I know how to generate money.
Yeah.
But then the management of it, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of things that stop me. I'm one of those emotional people. I grew up emotional money, right? Oh no, it's the last of the food stamps. Who's making grilled cheese sandwiches? I was making chicken sandwiches. I know what it is not to have, and that becomes an emotional thing. And I didn't understand the trauma behind that, right? So I know how to generate the wealth. Wasn't good at the management thing.
Yeah.
But changing that mindset is first, and you just dipped into something about thinking like a bank, and I want to tag something here. The bank is using our money to go out and make more money. But then you said inside of that they only require 10% to be covered, which is covered by another entity, which is more or less credit, right? FDICs and all that, it's all credit. So they have a line of credit. How do we, now that we understand we have to shift our mindset, and there's going to be people who follow up with you, right? You're going to go online, you're going to click the links and wherever we'll put them here, and you're going to follow that. But how did we start to weave in and start the principles around money? I want to talk about discipline. You talked about that. What's a main principle that every leader in their household or business should apply to their daily finances?
Right. I think that's a great question. You said some things earlier that I want to make sure that we get back to. I want to make sure we get back to the whole think like the bank and how the bank manages their money versus how we've been taught to manage our money. So don't let me forget that. But I do want to address this question that you just asked right here. And say that question again for me.
Main principle, every leader, I'm going to call everybody here a leader. If you have decision responsibilities in your household, you are a leader.
Yep, got it.
Right?
So I was at a conference with one of my clients, one of my dental practices that I manage, and the question was asked, what is the top characteristic, top trait of a successful CEO? Couple things here. Whether you own a business or not, you are a CEO. If you're in a family, you are in a CEO position, right? I believe wholeheartedly that the most important business that you'll ever be a part of is your household. Nice. I don't care if you got an LLC, don't care if you got a business, EIN number, S Corp, C Corp. I could care less about that. If you have a family, you are effectively running a small business.
Facts.
Period, point blank.
Yep.
So if you're running a family and you're the CEO of that family, which means you're the visionary, what is your number one skill set? So when this question was posed to us, Will, I heard communication, leadership, all of these things. And the reality was, what the speaker said was, the number one skill to develop is ruthless prioritization. top skill set of a CEO is not being a great communicator. It's knowing this is what we're not going to do, and this is what we are going to do. This is going to move the needle. We get so caught up in the minutia of life and all of these things that we start focusing on stuff that doesn't move the needle. I mean, what's that concept? Tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. Like, oh, right. So, ruthless prioritization is the skill set that you have to develop. So let's tie this now to how I now teach and think about finances. Ruthless prioritization is not determining what you're going to do. It's deciding what you're not going to do. So I just had a deal brought to me and my wife, a real estate deal, where we could have jumped in this deal. It would have been a flip. So we would have bought it, rehab it, flipped it, right? And it was projected to make $180,000 in 6 months. And we was ready to move forward on this thing, baby. You know what I'm saying, right? And then I had to coach myself the way that I coach my clients around this ruthless prioritization. And I went back to, the realtor, my GC, and said, we're not going to move forward on this, but I need y'all to understand why. My goal is to create cash flow today. A flip is not cash flow. Cash flow means repetition. Flowing like a river is constantly moving. A flip is not cash flow.
Yeah.
A flip is I bought something at this price and sold it for this price and I got a capital infusion. My focus is cash flow, which is why my company is called Cash Flow Unlocked and things of that nature, right? So I thought about it. I said, though this has the chance to make some money, but it's a lot of variables that I can't control. How long is the rehab going to take? It's already, rehab, the property wouldn't be ready to maybe January. So who's buying properties in January in Ohio when it's going to be like negative 10 degrees, right? So it's probably not going to get sold until the spring, which now means I have holding costs. I have to cover utilities so the pipes don't bust. I have to cover water, right? We have to cover the mortgage payment, all of these things. I got money tied up in it. And I was like, that's not my goal. My goal is to be work optional by 50. So I've had to run it through what I call my M3 filter, right? And I'll share this with the audience. Make sure y'all write this down, y'all. The M3 filter is just short for make money moves, right? And I ask this question. This is what I teach our mastermind. Every financial decision run through this filter. Take the emotion out. Take some time, put it on paper, and ask yourself these questions. Does this increase my cash flow and or passive income? 2, does this decrease my expenses? 3, does this reduce my taxes? So where somebody else would have got super excited, like, oh, I got a chance to make $180,000, I have to sit and say, hold on. Does this increase my cash flow or passive income? The answer is no, because this is a flip. This is not a cash flow producing asset. So,
and you're going to go on the books making $200,000 more that year than you would have any other year, and so you're now in a new tax bracket.
So did this? Hold on. So you skipped ahead to the other one. This decreased my taxes? No, it actually increased my taxes.
Right. Yeah.
So 1, did this increase my cash flow or passive income? No. Does this decrease my expenses? Because another way to become financially free isn't just making money, but if you can decrease expenses, right, then you need less money, right? But did this decrease my expenses? No. I have carrying costs for the next 6 months. It actually increased my expenses. And then 3, does this reduce my taxes? Another way to win this cash flow game is just to pay less in taxes. If we're going to make, $600,000 this year or something along those lines, and I'm probably going to be close to a 0% tax bracket, right? So, but this deal is actually going to increase my taxes, because if I get that $180,000 and I don't immediately put it back to another property doing a 1031 exchange, now I have capital gains that I got to pay. So this didn't decrease my taxes. So I walked away from a potential deal because that's called ruthless prioritization. My 100% focus is growing my monthly recurring cash flow to a point that it covers my monthly nut. That deal didn't do it. I said, so I appreciate everybody's efforts to try to get this over the finish line, but we're not going to move forward with this deal because this is my buy box. I'm being a CEO. Everything that everything that shines and glitters, new shiny, what they call it, shiny object syndrome. It ain't for me. And that's what we teach when we say think like the bank. So let me go just back real quick off of that. Any question over that transaction before we move past that?
No. I think you reached it, especially, I think there's an emotional component too.
Yeah.
That you deduced out of it, right? And you pulled that out of it and looked at the logic, you ran your numbers, and I think you got a net result that you wanted.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's the same lesson that we just learned from your daughter.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, hey, let's look at the books and let's make sure this makes sense.
We call it senior finances in 3D. Data-driven decisions.
Period.
So, hey, who wouldn't want to make $100,000? Everybody want to make, $180,000, right?
Yeah.
But ruthless prioritization that's not what we're trying to do right now. That's why I tell people everything ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? How does this apply to your finances?
Yeah.
Right? So we go back into this whole think like the bank piece, right? I ask people this question all the time. It's probably one of my favorite questions. I start off my boot camp asking this question. I say, hey, y'all, banking system has been around for thousands of years. I've tracked it and researched it. It goes back to like Mesopotamia type way. It goes back that far, right? Agriculture is the number one like industry that's been around for the longest. Banking is like number two. So it's something to be said about an industry that has been around for thousands of years, right? So let's talk about it real quick. So I ask people this question: hey, you have money in the bank, right? Okay. What interest rate are you earning on that money in the bank? For most people, they're earning 1%. Of course, somebody's going to watch this and comment and be like, oh, my high yield savings, I'm getting 4. It's a reason you're getting 4. We can get into that later on, okay? But the major banks ain't paying you for it because, interest rate is determined based upon, anyway, before I digress, because that's a whole other conversation. Let's say you're making 1% on your money. Have you ever thought to go to the bank and be like, hey, where do y'all keep y'all cash? Is there cash sitting in the same account that they're giving you the 1% on? Absolutely not.
Right.
But if you go and ask most bankers, I challenge y'all to go do it today. Go to your bank and ask your bank, hey, banker, who's opening up my savings account, where do y'all keep your cash? I want to keep my cash where you're keeping your cash. Well, do your research. You're going to find out that banks keep up to 25% of their tier 1 capital, money that they cannot lose, in cash value life insurance. So why aren't they offering us cash value life insurance? And they offer, So that's mind blowing. Y'all can run the math on it. I think as of 2024, banks had over $200 billion in cash value life insurance.
So let's be specific about that. So cash value life insurance. There's a lot of VUL, there's term, there's a lot of different...
No, cash,
right?
you know what I'm saying? We're talking about whole life cash value.
Whole life.
Whole life cash value life insurance.
I know there's folks who's like, well, wait a minute, I got signed up with
Yep.
Ameriprise or got signed up with so-and-so thing, and they put me in a, some type of variable, they put me in a life insurance package, and I'm good, right? No, this is not what we're talking about.
We would tell them, just go Google and research BOLI, Bank on Life Insurance. It'll give you all the details that you're looking for.
There you go, BOLI, B-O-L-I.
Yep, B-O-L-I, right. So why do banks do that? Because they can take out a large life insurance policy on their staff, their CEOs, dump in millions of dollars. That money stays in the account, earning probably anywhere between 3 to 6%, tax deferred, which is the equivalent to earning probably closer to 7 and 8% taxable. Money stays in the account, and then when they want to access money, they don't take the money out. The money stays in the account, growing uninterrupted, and then they get a policy loan that they then go use to go buy real estate and invest and cover bills and expenses and things of that nature. So they keep this money on their balance sheet, so they keep making money in their left-hand pocket, and then they use the policy loan to go fund the things that they need to fund. But of course somebody can be like, but Perry, that's debt. Well, if you understand how these policies are structured, those policies do not have structured required payments, which means there's nobody knocking on your door every 30 days talking about you got to make a payment on your loan. You can choose when you want to make a payment on that, or if you ever want to make a payment on that loan. So we're talking about, I won't necessarily call it free money, but I'm going to talk about that as a sense of leverage. Hey, if you could keep your money working for you and use my money to go bust a move, how can you win, right? So when people are like, well, hold on, really? Yeah, go look it up yourself. The math is right there. It's under our nose. Just don't do what the banks say do do what the banks do,
Yeah.
right? And then this other piece, right? And I share this with folks. I asked him, Will, I love this question. I say, hey man, how many people in this room or how many people listening to this podcast is a private money lender, right? And what's a private money lender? Somebody who lends their private money out to people, right? Mm-hmm. How many in here is a private money lender? They're taking their money and lending it out and making some interest. Hardly nobody's hand ever goes up. But I'm like, wow, well, are y'all lying to me? Y'all all said y'all have bank accounts, right? They're like, yeah. I said, so question for you. Do you think the bank is paying you interest because you're cool? Because you swagged out? Right? Because you just a really nice person. Hey, Will, you are so cool, bro. I'm going to pay you some interest. People pay interest on what? Debt.
Yep.
The interest rate that you're quoted at the bank is them saying to you, we want to borrow your money short term. So check out this hustle. They're borrowing your money short term, paying you 1%. So you can literally have $100,000, $10,000 sitting in the bank, you're getting your 1%. But you walk into the same bank that you're lending your money to, that they're paying you 1%, be like, hey, I need a mortgage. Be like, yeah, that's going to be 8, fam. Hey, man, I need a car loan. Yeah, that's going to be 10, fam.
And this is money that you've already been taxed on, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
the money you've been taxed on, you're not even getting that back.
No.
You're getting a small percentage of the money you've already been taxed on.
Bro. So listen to how the bank system, the financial system is wild when you start to sit back and take that red pill and get out the matrix. So hold on. Imagine me, this is how it's going down. Hey, Will.
And no diss to JP Morgan Chase. I know I worked out.
Yo, it's all love. You know what I'm saying? We just teaching right now. Yeah. So check this out. You come to me, and I come to you. I say, hey, bro, I need to borrow $10,000. You're like, family, I got you. I'm only going to charge you 1%. I'm like, good looking. So I borrowed your money. Then you come back to me and be like, hey, P, man, I want to borrow some money. Yeah, that's 10%, bro. You're like, hold on, fam. I gave you money at 1%. Yeah, that's cool, but I'm going to charge, that's how I make my money. That's how they make their money. You're getting paid 1% on your loan to the bank. Yeah. And then when you need money, you then got to pay 6, 7, 8%. And God forbid, don't let it be a credit card. Now you're at 15 or 30. Mm-hmm. That's making money in the margins. That's the biggest win on the planet. Why not start to think like that? How can you lend money? How can you make money in the margins? Because guess what? If they're only having to pay 1% on money, but they're lending it out at 6, 7, 8, 10 to 30, they're making that spread. What is that spread called? That's called cash flow.
All right, we're starting to crack some heads. So I gotta pause for a second. Everybody take a breath, because you're on this ride with us. We have multiple people who are watching this, multiple people we talk to. Yeah. So a lot of adults, but we have young adults as well, right? A lot of athletes, folks who are going to have access to NIL pretty soon. Yep. They're emerging. If I'm putting this clip out here, you're watching it because you watch us speak at high schools and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're trying to teach there as well. How do we lift both boats? Let's talk about young folks for a second, right? And we're going to get right back to credit cards and cash flow and all that, right? So put a pin in it. Young folks, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. I didn't know anything about APRs. I didn't know about finance. I didn't know about rates. I didn't know about credit. I didn't know about a lot of stuff, right? Where do we start to make some good decisions? What age? Where are we starting? What's our ground floor? What do we do?
Start now. So at the point in time that the kid starts to grasp the concept of I can exchange money for something, is the point in time you start to teach financial literacy. I have it's on our YouTube. When I was doing these segments back in the day, and I shared it, and I actually had my daughters on there. So I think they're twins at this point in time. They had to be, let's call it 9 years old. So they're on the news with me, and we're talking about financial literacy, right? And we have to teach financial literacy in terms that people understand. So first and foremost, right? Like A kid, a 9-year-old is not going to understand the APR. Most adults don't understand APR. So why am I teaching a kid an APR if they're not going to understand it, right? But this is what they do understand. They do understand potato chips and Chick-fil-A. Okay. So it was one day we were at the gym. We were leaving the gym, and I was teaching my daughters, hey, you go exchange this money for this item. Dad, can we get some chips? Yes, you may. Here's my debit card. There's money on this card. Go exchange this money for these chips. So she comes back with her chips and my credit card and the receipt. I said, okay, now let's read the receipt, baby. How much did the chips cost? They cost $2. And she said, they cost $2, Dad. I said, yeah. And then she said, well, that's not that much. I said, okay. I said, got a question for you. You get an allowance right now. Your salty gives you an allowance. How much is your allowance? She's like, $2. I said, how often do you get that? Every 2 weeks. What do you have to do to get that allowance? She didn't even ask. She said, I'm taking the chips back. She said, can I take these back? Because it started to connect the dots. I have to do this to get this money. Is this bag of chips worth the work I had to do to get this money?
Right.
Because she didn't have the option to put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
It was, I exchanged my time for money. So I had to do 2 weeks of taking out trash, cleaning the bathroom, XYZ. These chips are not worth that. And she went to take them back. And I said, baby, you ain't got to take the chips back. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Yep, cool. So I said, you don't have to take the chips back, baby. You good? Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's when it connected the dots for her. I didn't talk about APR. I didn't talk about investing. We just simply talked about, hey, money is exchanged for a value. Money is just a store of value. So if you start to understand that, hey, this store of value is not worth I had to do this to get these chips. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. I'm going to say this for something that's worth it.
Yeah.
That's financial literacy. Like, it doesn't have to be this technical piece that people think it is. It has to be, hey, this is how I go about my day making better financial decisions.
Value where it's value.
Yeah.
If you're riding in your car, and you've got gas that you need to put in there.
Yeah.
Is it worthwhile going across town for a couple cents savings?
Correct.
Right. Letting your friends borrow a few dollars.
Yeah.
Does it make sense for you to do that? Buying a $100 hoodie, does it make sense? It may make sense, right? Yeah. If that's the only hoodie that you're buying the whole year, it may make sense. Yeah. Making sense. So, do you have any resources? Do you have anything that you point young adults to?
This is really good, right? Because I was thinking about this morning because I know we were going to be chopping it up and talking about this topic. A couple of things here. I was having this conversation with myself because it's something I've been just really curious about, is why is financial literacy so low, and why do so many people struggle with their finances, and why is it such a small percentage of the population that has wealth? So I'm going to get to your question, but this is the thought I had, and then we can unpack it a little bit, is you can't learn how to create wealth. And let me lean into this a little bit. From the look on your face, you're like, I'm intrigued. Where are you going with this? We can go to school and we can learn, but no, this is the analogy that God gave me this morning. I could pick up a book right now about fishing. This is how you fish. This is the pole you get. This is how you get your worm on the hook. These are the different things that bobble up and down in the water, right? And I could read that book. Somebody could give me a test on that book and I can answer all the questions. But until I go to a body of water and actually fish, to learn the nuances of, well, the wind is blowing this way, I got to make an adjustment. Or, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? Like, the worms are stale. Or, like, until you actually do it, you don't know how to do it. So many people are so focused on financial literacy and just learning how to pass the test, but they're not being put in situations where they actually have to apply it, because the wealth and the money is made in the nuance, not the just, oh, I know the difference between a stock and a bond. I'm so glad you know the difference between a stock and a bond. Do you own any stocks and or bonds? No, but you're not going to learn how to create this wealth because you're not doing it. Too many people are so focused on learning it versus learning how to do it. You do it, and that's how you start to learn it. I use this example like when I first started doing this infinite banking concept. I was familiar with this infinite banking concept, the whole concept of, hey, instead of storing money in the bank, store it in these high early cash value life insurance policies, right? Use that as my emergency fund, and then be able to access money and have all these other benefits that go with it. I understood it from an academic sense 20 years ago, but I never did it. Until I started doing it and knowing how it works from doing it is when I became an expert on it. And then that's when stuff started to go like crazy. That's how we've been able to acquire over $1 million in real estate in less than a year. That's why we have a 6-unit in contract right now. That's why we have a letter of intent on a $1.3 million business. And I've yet, and this is my wife running point on this, we've yet to use any of our own money because I started doing it.
Yeah.
Too much focus on learning it versus doing it.
I like that. I didn't know what it was to stretch a dollar until I got to the gas station on the way to high school, and I had my boy with me, and I'm like, yo, my little $2.
Man, real tight right now.
I need you to.
Hold on. I need snaps on the petrol. For I don't know how old your audience is, but it's gonna be some cats that be like, yeah. Yo, you got snaps on the petrol. You know what I'm saying, right?
I need you to put some.
You get bonus points if you know what movie that's from.
I need you to put in some extra coins on this.
Yeah.
We got the money up.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't know.
You don't know
It's
until
all
you're
concept.
doing it. It's all concept.
Yeah.
And that's the gap that I'm seeing.
Shout out
bro.
to my boy Stan who put in a $1.37 to my gas tank.
Big shout out,
Appreciate you.
$1.37 major paper, baby. You know what I'm saying? For moving forward, that's probably like $20 today. So we appreciate you. Inflation crazy, right? But yeah, man. So like, it's so many folks who are like, I want to learn it. I get asked those questions all the time. What's a good resource? Good resource. Go find somebody who's wealthy and ask them what they do. Your best resource is not the books. Now, I'm not saying don't go read the books, because I can give you a list of books that I love, right? Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Right there.
You know what I'm saying? Multiple Streams of Income by Robert G. Allen. 1 Minute Millionaire, you know what I'm saying, by Robert G. Allen and Greg Victor Hampson, right? Like, I can give you a ton of books, right? But you know, I was already reading books on real estate before I ever had any real estate. I never bought my first piece of real estate until I took a client out, paid them $1.50 cup of coffee because he was paying me down there $30,000 a year to training as a personal trainer. And I asked him, I said, man, how are you able to afford this? You're almost the same age. You're 5 years older than me. Excuse me, how are you able to afford this? He said, well, I work here, but I do real estate. I'm like, oh, can I take you out for a cup of coffee and you pick your brain? And I wasn't out there picking his brain just to shoot the stump. Right. No, what's the recipe? Right. I went out there as a student. So you have how many properties, and how did you get that? And how did you finance that? And I was like, got it. $1.50 cup of coffee. And you know how long ago it was, because ain't nobody getting no $1.50 cup of coffee no more. This is at Barnes.
It's like $6.
Yeah. This is Barnes and Noble's back in the day, right? I remember sitting outside at Barnes and Noble. He had his stuff. I'm writing my notes. And I went back to him like, I don't know, probably 40, 60 days later. It's like, yeah, I bought my first property. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, and I got 2 more on debt. All I need to know was the recipe. But you know who has the recipe? The cook. Go to the cook.
Yeah.
And get the recipe, fam. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get the book on this is how you bake a cake. No, I already read the book on how to bake a cake, but I had never pulled the trigger. Yeah. I went and got with the chef. So I want to see how you bake the cake. Oh, that's what you do? Oh. Well, shit, I can do that. Okay, cool. Hold my coffee. I'll be right back. Exactly. $4 million worth of real estate later.
Yeah.
So that's the issue, man, is everybody's looking for the resource or the book, but you're not looking for the mentor or the coach. You need to actually be connected with people who are doing the thing, not people who, and not a lot of these social media cats. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate on social media because I'm on social media, right? We build our following that way. But I'm talking about somebody like when I'm in my boot camp, I actually open up, hey, here's my account. I log on in front of thousands of people. Let me log on to my account and show you this is what we're doing. So they're like, oh, I said, have you ever had a financial advisor show you their account? When they was telling you to invest in X, Y, and Z, did they ever lift up the hood and be like, this is where I'm invested, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm using my infinite banking, here's my brokerage account, right? Nobody's showing that, right? So you could be getting advice.
We don't talk about money.
Because we don't talk about money.
We don't talk about money.
Right. So the resource is go find somebody who's rich and or wealthy.
And you better not ask me how much I make.
Oh, don't ask that question. And so here's the deal. Man, hold on, bro. Jeez. So those you know what I'm saying, who getting introduced to me, my wife is white, right? Ashley, her dad is 100% Eastern European Jew. We did the whole,
23andMe.
No. What's the other one? Ancestry.com,
yeah.
right? Yeah. My mom was going ham with that back in the day. And from Brooklyn, New York, right? And I remember when the parents, my in-laws, became my clients. But here's the story to it to kind of go right into what you're talking about. My father-in-law had this account with a broker-dealer that I used to work for. And, this is when me and my wife first started dating. We're not even married yet, right? Sunday dinners. And he's like, so, Perry, you're a financial advisor? I'm like, He's like, oh, well, I got, I got an advisor over at so XYZ. I was like, oh, yeah, I used to work there. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I was like, yep, I know your advisor. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And moving right along, another couple Sundays later, he brings out his statement. I look at it, I said, oh, okay, that's how you're invested. I said, okay, that's cool, right? Don't hand it back to him. I get back and I tell, we might be engaged at this point in time. Okay. So let's say I tell my fiance, I say, hey, so your dad showed me his statement from the firm he's at. She's like, okay. I was like, yeah. I said, it's trash. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, he's too small of an account for that firm. That firm only really wants to work with people who have $5 million and up. He's not at that threshold. So he's not getting any type of active management and or advice on it. She said, well, you need to tell him that. I said, I'm not doing that. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not about to go talk to your dad about money. She looked me dead in my face and she said, oh, no, that's not how we move. We're family. We take care of family. If you see something not right, you go tell them it's not right.
Wow.
Hold on. So if that's a while, wait till the end of the story. So I reach out to my future in-laws and say, hey man, I'm gonna come in and talk to you guys about your finances, right? You're like, yeah, absolutely, Perry. We get there at the kitchen table, and it was so many different things that hit me. We had these statements laid out, and the wife had, statements with her name on it. He has statements with his name on it. It was never, this is her money, this is my money. It was always, this is our money. So that's the first thing I noticed. I don't see that in a lot of black households, right? This is my money, this is his money, her money. Sometimes I don't even know what they even have, right? Unfortunately, in my 20 years, more times when I'm doing this with people of color, black folks, our folks, I'm only talking to one person. I'm not always talking to both, okay? So the first thing I noticed this was our money, right? And I sat down there and I did my thing and I said, hey, I'm coming to you not as your future son-in-law, but just as an advisor, right? And I'm going to attempt to earn your business, but more importantly, I'm going to educate you on what you currently have because we are going to be family. So I educate them. I break things down to them. I put it in terms that they understand, which my mother-in-law loves. She's like, oh, I actually understand what you're talking about. Yeah. This other dude, I didn't know what he was talking about. I never knew what he was talking about. So at the end of that meeting, my father-in-law looks at me and he says, all right, well, how do we get the money to you? And this was just shy of $1 million. And I'm like, what? And I guess he could see the shock on my face. And this is what he said to me. He said, oh, you don't understand. You are marrying my most valuable asset. This is not our most valuable asset. You're marrying our most valuable asset. And when we die, she's going to get 50% of this split between her and her sister. So because you are marrying our daughter, who's our most valuable asset, and she's going to get 50% of this money, effectively you're managing your money. What?
Which, first of all,
What?
that puts you in a no-fail situation because
What?
zero tolerance for divorce, zero tolerance for expectation of lively. Like, this is a life commitment, right? Right away. That's the expectation. Right away. There is no B plan. There is no C plan. It's
We here.
we're all in.
Yeah.
Pushing all the chips.
Yeah.
We're all in.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. So so that's when I was like, oh, this is generational wealth. The generational wealth wasn't the, hey, this is what we have, right? The generational wealth was our family, and setting our family up is what it is. And because now you're about to become part of the family, because mind you, we weren't married yet, literally gave me every dime of money that they had and said, you manage it.
But to the same point, you don't know till you know, right?
You don't know till you know.
do it.
Yeah.
You could have theorized this whole thing. Hey, babe, when we get married, this is the way it's going to work, right? This is where our books is going to be. This is the way we script this out. This is what we do to our assets. But until that got pushed to you, until you took on the responsibility, until somebody put that $1.37 in your tank,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It's
had
real.
really no idea.
It's real, right?
Yeah.
So I was mind blown, bro. I said, okay, the most valuable asset is never the money. It's the people.
Wow.
It's the relationship.
Yeah.
It's the family. That's the most valuable asset. And I think that's what most people get jammed up with, this money and this wealth thing. They think it's all about the money. Like, hey, this dude Perry brags about how he makes $600,000, gonna make $1 million a year. He got $1 million in real estate. Da da da. Let's take all of that trash and just let's put that to the side. The fact of the matter is, my why for doing this lies within our 6F framework: faith, family, friends, fitness, fun, finance. In that order, exactly. Finance being last, faith and family being the top two. I'm not trying to become work optional so I can flex. I'm trying to be work optional so I can show up in the best version of myself in my faith, in my community, with my family, with my friends, in my health, and how I kick it and have fun, and lastly, in my finances. So going back to that lesson I learned from my father-in-law, right? The most valuable asset wasn't the close to $1 million in 401k dollars. The most valuable asset was the woman that I was agreeing to cover and take care of. And because if she trusted me to be the one to cover her and provide and take care of her, then they were going to trust me with every dollar of their money, because effectively, me coming into the family, I'm managing 50% of my money.
Man, I could almost end that right here, right? I mean, that wraps up, honestly, what we talked about in the beginning, right? Was that the biggest, the whole reason why we do this is we work to live, not live to work, right? We're doing these for our family. We manage our wealth. We talked about the definition for our family, right? So now we're in the bonus round, though.
Bonus round, let's get it.
So we can cap that right there. We can wrap that and say, hey, you can log in and get the extra bonus. So here you go. Here's the extra bonus. Let's get into some of the more, and honestly, to get some of these, somebody told me before, is you're going to get the what out of this, okay? So just setting your expectation, you're going to get the what out of this. To get the how, all the execution, you got to go holler at Perry. You got to go sign up for his boot camp. You got to go be a part of that. You got to get with the chef. Right? The chef doesn't come for free. You need to invest in that. Spend your time. When I say free, it's not just money, it's your time, your effort, your commitment, your own education, your own learning. You got to commit to it, right? So you're going to get the what out of this. We're going to talk about the principles and what you need to take care of, and we're going to identify some things that you need to think about, some things that you haven't thought about before. But the how is going to be the holler at PJ. All right, so we talked about financial moves. We talked about principles around the money, simple systems, and things like that. Can we start getting into how someone starts to build to start their wealth journey, right? Where do they start? We have all these options and all these things out here for us, but where do we start? We're sitting at a 9 to 5 every day, the checks is barely meeting each
Yeah.
other right now with
Yeah.
with inflation and prices being up on everything.
Yeah.
We got a couple coins to rub together.
Mhm.
Where do we start? How do we get the confidence, and then how do we target our effort? Where do we start?
Great. Understand that. Okay, let me start off by saying this. Had you asked me this question 3 years ago, different answer.
Okay.
As of today, new answer. Had you asked me this question 3 years ago, the answer would have been, hey, start off with, dollar cost averaging, investing what you have, $50 a month. And then I would have probably said, you need to have a financial plan first, right? It's kind of like going back to that example of the road trip that me and you were on, right? Before we get into the car, and I do this now, and I know it bothers my wife to death, I don't care if I know how to get to where we're going, I put the GPS on. Because you know what the GPS is going to tell me? Yeah, I may know how to get there, and it may be a straight line to get from point A to point B, but the GPS is going to tell me it's an accident and I need to go a different way. So I could be going someplace I've been 1,000 times. GPS is the first thing I'll do when I get in the car, right? So I would always tell people so what's your GPS, right? You need a financial plan. Nobody should start investing without having some type of financial plan and or framework, right? So that's how I would have answered that question, 3 years ago. Today, I will answer that question a little differently. I would say the number one thing you could do, and the first thing to start doing, is getting into rooms where people are having conversations about money.
Not what I expected. So let's say that again. Get into rooms where people are having conversations about money.
Yeah.
Not complaints. But productive conversations around money. Okay.
And let me tell you why. You hiring a financial advisor, which I'm no longer a financial advisor, I'm a financial strategist. We can talk about that later. But you hiring a financial advisor is you typically hiring somebody to tell you what to do. Hiring somebody to tell you what to do did not empower you to learn what to do. You just have somebody, it's no different than me just being like, hey man, lift that weight. Versus you understanding the reason you need to lift the weight and how, if I'm not around, to lift the weight properly, and understanding all of that goes behind that, right? So that's where I think the disconnect is that we are not getting in rooms where people are talking about money. So I did this for my daughters. Big shout out to Micah and the group chat. I know she'll watch this recording at some point in time. So Micah's friend group is a whole bunch of boys. They're all athletes, right? They're all student athletes. So football, basketball, track, you know what I'm saying, right? And they all follow me on social media, right? And they get excited when it comes to that. I was like, oh, we're going to see the ECFO. You know what I'm saying? The ECFO, I found out that, you know what I'm saying, I got aura. You know what I'm saying? So big shout out to the group chat, you know what I'm saying?
Aura.
Aura on 100. Aura on 100, right?
He's not farming aura right now.
Right. So check it. I tell Mike, I said, hey, invite the group chat over. We're gonna play cash flow. So I didn't invite him over to watch a football game. I didn't invite him over to watch, a basketball game. I invited him over, since I knew I had some influence over them, to come over and play the game Cash Flow, which is Robbie Kiyosaki's game about how to manage your money. So think, Monopoly on steroids. Like, they're learning how to look at a balance sheet. Here's my assets. Here's my liabilities. They're getting in their head already like, oh, the way I get out of this rat race is if my expenses are $2,000 a month, I have to start buying assets, real estate, mutual funds, things of that nature, businesses that's going to help. And it's like, oh, hey, I'm going to buy this business because it's giving $500 a month. I'm getting closer. I'm going to buy this real estate that's giving $200. So we played the game. You know what they did? They didn't notice, but they got into a room where we were talking openly about money, even if it's gamified.
That's a great, man, dude.
Even if it's gamified.
That's a great example.
So get into rooms where people are talking about money.
Wow.
Right? So these kids, if they never see me again, they play Cash Flow. They ask to play it again, like, hey, when can we come over and play Cash Flow again? But that 2-3 hours they spent with us learning. Oh, yeah. Hey, are you gonna buy that property? Well, I'll buy that property off if you. I'll buy the deal if you don't want the deal, because you know the way the game works. You flip over and you get a deal, and then Cass be like, "Well, you're not gonna do that deal. I buy that deal off of you. Here's $1,000."
Yeah.
They're learning how to become financially free.
They're practicing and doing money.
They're in the room
Right.
where people are talking about money.
Wow.
Again, let's go back to this fishing example.
Yeah.
You reading a book on fishing just means you can pass a test on reading a book on fishing.
Exactly.
Until you get out on the boat, until you get out there and those waves start hitting, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, I ain't feeling good, right? Until you get out there and be like, man, this worm ain't going on the hook the way it's supposed
Till you
to.
stick your
You know what I'm
finger
saying?
by
Until you're like, you know what I'm saying? Until you do that, you're not going to get good at it. Get in rooms where people, that's why we created, you know what I'm saying? Quick plug for the Financial Freedom Bootcamp. Hey, y'all can all go to thinklikethebank.com. It'll have information on all of the products and things and offers they have, right? But that's why we created the Financial Freedom Bootcamp. It's 5 days for you to be in a room, a virtual room, and talk about money. Because you're not in those rooms. I guarantee you, when you get in rooms, like now with my in-laws and my brother-in-law, right? We went on our first vacation together. This was years ago. Almost 10 years ago, but I remember going out to North Carolina, and I remember us, me, my father-in-law, and my brother-in-law sitting, you know what I'm saying, just on the deck in the morning, drinking some coffee, some tea, right? And it was like, hey, so how's your business going? You know, hold on. It wasn't just how your business going, because you know how we would answer. I'm out here grinding, out here doing my thing.
I hear you.
I'm out here doing my thing.
Yeah.
No, it was, what's your... Oh, I'm probably gonna clear 500,000 this year. And I'm like, oh, we talking numbers. Oh yeah, we probably gonna do 6 million this year. Oh, I said, well, shoot, you know what I'm saying? Well, I think we're probably gonna do like 120, you know what I'm saying, right? Like we were talking about numbers at Sunday dinners. Hey, what's the play? What's the play on the business, what you're doing right now? Hey, let's talk about crypto. Hey, like, we should be able to talk about finances as much as folks talk about the dang football games. You know what drives me crazy? Is broke people knowing all the stats of Ohio State Buckeyes, know quarterback ratings, yards per carry, blah, blah, blah. And you ask them like, well, how's your portfolio performing?
Transfers,
You know what I'm saying?
NIL
Yeah. You can give me all of that, but you can't tell me your interest rate. You don't know the difference between a stock and a bond. You don't understand real estate. You don't understand mortgages and leverage, right? Imagine if during a Saturday, instead of us sitting down watching other people live their dreams, we're actually learning how to live ours, and we're sitting having a candid conversation like, hey man, what you got in your savings? Man, I got about 10,000 in my savings, bro. Okay, cool. Man, this is what I did to grow my savings. I did this, right? We should have, that's how the conversation should be. You have to get in rooms, because the purpose of getting in the room is not just learning, but it's transforming your mindset. You will not start to create wealth until you start to transform. John Maxwell, in his books, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. One of the laws is the law of environment, right? And the law of environment states, and I'm going to butcher it, but you guys will get the concept. If you change your environment and not your mindset, no. If you change your mindset and not your environment, you will have very little growth. You're moving the needle a little bit. If you change your environment and not your mindset, you'll actually have more growth than a person who changed their mindset. If you grow your mindset and change your environment, you have exponential growth. But the piece in there to really take away is like, hold on, I can change my mindset, but not my environment, and my growth is going to be stagnated. But the cat who don't change their mindset and change their environment is going to have more growth than me. How's that possible? It's like seed, right? You may be a better seed than me, but if I plant you in BS soil with no light and no photosynthesis kicking in, and weak, you know what I'm saying, soil with no nutrients in it, I don't care how strong a seed you are, you ain't gonna grow. I could be a deformed seed, jacked up, but I'm in the right environment with the right water, the right nutrients in the soil, that I'm facing the sun the right way. I'll have more growth than you.
Yeah. There's a, so I'll add in, me and my dad, he would dig a hole wherever he would dig a hole in the backyard. And I never knew why this was a big thing. So if my dad's listening to this, I remembered. So we're in the backyard, and he digs a hole. He's scaring me because he's like, hey, here's a shovel, and we start digging a hole. I don't ask any questions. I just say, okay. He's always in the yard doing some plants and all that. So I'm spending time with my dad, right? I don't really care why we were digging a hole. We're just digging a hole. Then he gets out a big, giant plastic tarp.
Okay.
Now, any other household, this would be a scary item, right?
Yeah,
It's like
I'm feeling Dexter vibes.
Right.
I'm feeling like this might be it.
Digging a hole, putting some plastic down. This is a problem, right? What are we hiding, right? So we start filling it up with water.
Yeah.
And then he talks about these fish, these koi fish. Some people have heard of them before. It's just a little Japanese fish. It's got markings on it. Funny thing about the koi fish is if you put them into a small tank, they remain small. If you put them into a large tank and give them all the nutrients that they need, i.e. a bug zapper from outside and flies and all kinds of stuff fall down, they can eat whatever they need to, right? But they're living big life. They actually grow almost up to 10 times larger than they would in a confined tank. That's a huge lesson, right?
Valuable lesson.
Get all the nutrients, like you said, get all the things that you need. The koi hasn't changed who the koi was.
Nope.
Didn't change its mindset, didn't change its nature.
Nope.
It just got into a larger environment, into a bigger, a more, a richer environment where it could thrive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have to get into rooms, is what you're saying. We have to talk about, we have to do money. Weird statement, I know. We have to do money.
You have to do
right?
money.
We have to practice it. And like you said, just do it. It is not about just rehearsing it and reading it and having the knowledge and being a practitioner, right? Or you want to be a practitioner, not just an educator on it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
If I wanted to start from zero and learn how to start a business, and no shout out to no disrespect to our educational system, but just pointing this out. I am not going to the professor who's teaching an MBA. I'm going to the business owner who's actually in the trenches.
Yeah.
Because the person who's teaching an MBA, if you look at the stats on that, a lot of the MBA instructors don't have businesses, but they're telling you how to run a business. I want to learn how to run the business from the person who's in the trenches, who's digging the hole, person who's dirty, you know what I'm saying, who can, because I'm going to get more value out of that. And again, that is positioning yourself and getting in different rooms.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. If I don't know if we're probably getting close to the end, but I want to make sure that people really understand this. The success I've had in business, the success I've had in finances was because I got in different rooms. And I didn't realize that until here recently. But every time I had this iteration or I've had this growth, I got in different rooms. How did I, first get my $4 million in real estate? I changed the room. I found somebody who was doing the thing. I found the chef who had the recipe, and I took him out to learn the recipe, right? I learned more in that 2-hour meeting with him than I learned in all the books I had read about real estate, right? Because I got the recipe, right? And I could go back to him and be like, am I doing this recipe right? Right? Hey, there's enough sugar, right? When my business grew crazy, when I was first lost my gig back in 2014, and I'm out here trying to do this entrepreneurship thing, I'm struggling, burning through all my investments, burning through all my savings, right? Like, man, am I gonna have to go get another job, the whole nine? But when I invested $10,000 into a 90-day program with my coach, who's still my coach today, and I asked him, I was like, hey, man, I don't need none of that kumbaya. Don't need none of that mindset trash. Yo, I'm working harder today than I did last year, and I've made 30% less. I need somebody to come and look at my business. We laugh and joke about that now because really what I needed was a mindset shift. And that mindset shift, because I paid $10,000 to get into the room, taught me, and what we did, his goal was to double my revenue. He actually 500%ed my revenue, 5.7x my revenue. And part of that coaching program was they would have masterminds across the country. And I remember going to my first mastermind in LA, Will, and it's me and 15, 20 other entrepreneurs who are trying to get better. And we're in the room where we talk about money. where we talk about the challenges, where we talk about family, where we talk about what system and what system do we need to implement and what people do we need to hire to live our level 10 life and go to the next level, right? I come out of there with my first CFO client. Somebody's like, hey man, heard you about to do the CFO stuff. I want to be your first client. Yeah. I came out with my first CFO client.
Wow.
I came out of there with the Profit First system, which I've been partnering with that group. Big shout out to Mike McAllis and Ron Shaharian over at Profit First. Those are my peoples over there, the authors, Mike, the author of the book. I'm a master level Profit First professional. I can't tell you how much wealth and freedom I've created with people, business that I work with, using their Profit First system, but I wouldn't have got that system had I not spent $10,000 to hire a coach to get into a room with people who were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get in rooms where people are talking about this stuff. Like, the academic piece is cool if you just want the theory of creating wealth, but if you actually want to do it, you need to be in rooms where people are doing it. You got to, you know what I'm saying? So, coaches, mentors, and the room.
Love it.
Right?
Love it. All right, rapid fire. Here we go. All right, we're going to book the rest of that. Here we go. All right. Invest at a bank, stocks, or something else?
Invest in yourself, something else.
Cash or credit?
Why not do both? Let me give an example. So when we use the same strategy that the banks use, the bank-owned life insurance, I store my cash in the policy where it continues to grow. And if I need credit, I now become my own bank and get a policy loan where my money stays and grows uninterrupted. And I use that policy loan to go out and do what I need to do. Why not do both? Why have to be or either or? Do both.
Credit yourself.
Yeah. Be your own bank.
Rich or wealthy?
Two words that are used synonymous. They're very different. We want to be wealthy. Honestly, what we teach in our Millionaire Mastermind, somebody asked, what do we do? I said, we help rich people become wealthy because they're different. Did you know, just to staff everybody, that if you earn $150,000 a year, you are in the top 10% of money earners globally. But there are a lot of people making $150,000 that are still paycheck to paycheck and feel broke. Right? So wealth is a system that creates safety and security, time, freedom, and abundance. Yeah. Rich just means you make money, because technically if you make $100,000, technically you're rich.
Wow. Favorite money book?
Too many to name.
Okay.
I'll do a quick rapid fire. I've already covered some of them. Multiple Streams of Income, 1 Minute Millionaire, Profit First, Killing Sacred Cows, What Would the Rockefellers Do, Become Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. I could go on and on. I'm an avid reader.
Love it. So you have a list shared somewhere?
We do, but it's for clients. But I can definitely wrap one up. So you go to thinklikethebank.com. We can have the team build one up.
There it is. The most expensive mistake you've ever made?
Not hiring an expert.
Ooh.
Let me give some context. So, I can sit here and, may sound boisterous, like, yeah, I grew a $4 million real estate portfolio from 2001 to 2009. And I lost every dime in that shit from 2009 to 2011.
Grand opening, grand closing.
Right? But how did I lose it? Because the funny story is, Will, I have a client who if you looked at us in 2007, 2008, we had the exact same number of units. Like, it was almost scary how similar we were, right? I lost everything, and now he's at 80 units and netting over $40,000 a month. Well, what did he do different that Perry did? Well, Perry went to one of the homies, one of the fraternity brothers, and said, hey, what should I do? And they gave me horrible advice. Just file bankruptcy. Oh. Right? And then found out I couldn't even file the damn bankruptcy because there's some other stuff going on, but that's the advice I was given. You know what I'm saying? Just let it all pop. My client and he wasn't my client at the time, he's a client now. What he did is he went to the big boy attorneys, wrote them a check for 10, I think he told me 10, 15 grand or something like that. And what they said, what we're going to do is we're going to take your portfolio, we're going to create 2 different holding companies, one for the properties you're going to let go, one for the properties you're going to keep. You're going to get these lines of credit and get that on everything and put that cash in your pocket. You're going to let these pop. Yes, your credit's going to take a hit, but you're going to have cash on hand. These properties are still good. And you know, he went back and bought the properties he lost for pennies on the dollar later on. You know why? Because he paid for expert advice. Stop being cheap. Stop being cheap. Cut the check, because that $10,000 that I was, because the homie hooked me up for like, you know, $1,500, $2,000, right? The $10,000 that my client cut gave him $40,000 in net income. And make sure we understand net, family. I'm talking about after expenses.
Wow.
And then I had to start from scratch because I did not pay for expert advice.
Which would have cost you a fraction.
So biggest financial mistake I ever made was not understanding that you have to pay for expert advice. If it's free and you ain't paying for it, it's probably not the best advice.
That's real. Ice cream or sorbet?
Sorbet. You know what I'm saying? We try to, the lactose gets people jammed up. We don't want to blow up the spot too much.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Final takeaway. What does being a financially strong person mean to you? Meaning, kind of giving people a definition of success, right? Like, what should people expect? We talked about this destination part. Like, when they walk away, I know everybody has their own goals, but when you evaluate and you say, wow, this person, they're doing better, right? They're financially strong now. Not maybe best, but they're stronger. What does that mean? What are the markers?
I think go back to, you know, what are the results of having a system, right? Let's just lean back right into that. Does that person feel safe and secure? If they were laying next to their wife or their husband in the bed, and you just rolled over and said, hey, babe, where we are financially today, do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? If the answer is yes, you're doing well. You know what's crazy about that, Will? That's not a number. That's not a, hey, we got $1 million in account, you feel good. Do you feel safe and secure? Because it's different for everybody. That's what's so crazy about my wealth definition. It's different for everybody. If you need to make $10,000 a month to live off of, or you need to make $2 million, you both have the same opportunity to get there based upon, you know what I'm saying, your gifts to get there, right? So 1, do you feel safe? Check. 2, hey, babe, this would be the same conversation in the bed. Hey, babe, you know what? I'm just going to cancel my appointments tomorrow. You cancel your appointments and let's just go do a date day. You know what I'm saying? Let's just go do day drinking. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let's just cancel the whole week. Are you in control of your calendar? Do you have that time freedom to control that? Check. The other one, from an abundance standpoint, you know what? And I told my wife, and this is in real time. I told my wife this the other day. I said, hey, babe, I really love our pastor. Like, he stands 10 toes down. I'm going to go to Mastro's and get him a $500 gift certificate to take he and his wife and his kids out to eat. And then I think I'm going to cut him a check for $1,000 for the building fund. Abundance. We got enough to cover ours.
Yeah.
So that means I can give to somebody else.
It's a blessing to be a blessing, right?
So that's how you know if you're financially strong. If you can't check those boxes, if you can't use that framework and check those boxes, it lets you know where you need some help. Maybe you might be like, man, do you feel secure? Yes. Do you have some abundance or some extra? Yes. Could you take this whole week off and nobody blow you up or write you up? You know what I'm saying? Right? Without you lying and saying I got COVID. You know what I'm saying? You just be like, I'm gonna
be sick next week.
Right? You know, like, do you have the discretion over your day?
Right.
Babe, you cancel your appointments. I'm gonna cancel my mine. We both are the owners. We don't have to ask permission from anybody, and we still have money coming in. Right? Can we do that? So you might have 2 out of the 3. If you can check 3 out of the 3, just let you know how strong you are.
There it is. Perry, thank you. Really appreciate you. Folks, if you don't know, I value this man's time like anybody else's, but I'm telling you, what you just got today is powerful, is valuable. And it's hard to listen to him without feeling some type of way and reflecting on my own situation, and I hope you are too. Be stoked, be excited, be encouraged to go out and do something, and be encouraged to go follow up. Go holler at the chef. Go talk to him. Don't be afraid. Right? Start somewhere. There's no better place to start than to do it. It's like when people go to the gym, they do whatever, and they say, "What's the best way to start working out?" Just start working out. You don't know where you're going to start. Just start doing it, and then next thing you know, you're doing it all the time. All right, Perry, thank you. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.
All right,
Yeah,
we'll
man.
have you again, hopefully sometime soon,
Man,
and we'll
looking
have an
forward to
update
it.
on your boot camps or your products or whatever you're doing, and we'll keep supporting you.
Oh, man, appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. This is major. Keep doing what you do.
All right, till next time.
Peace.